How's it going, world? Carl Shepard here, checking in for episode 31 of my Sober October Video Diary Challenge 2019. uh, Today was the final normal training day for me between now and the competition. I did my normal class training, and then I did a little bit of drilling and rolling thereafter, less than normal, and then did some rolling out and stretching throughout the day, and then I hit the CrossFit workout tonight. It was a good cardio intensity workout. So from now on, for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, I will be just stretching, rolling out, and doing some very light drilling just on my exact strategy for the competition. I've got a specific thing I'll be going for in every single position. So no matter where I land, I've got something to work on. And I'm just going to focus on that. Just period. I'm just focusing on that. I'm not going to try to do anything too complicated. I'm just going for position over submission and points. Just passing guard, getting on top, and then just working collar choke, and then going for the Kimura, the arm bar, and it's gonna be good. So I'm ready. I have a unique problem I noticed today where my super clean eating has actually caused my weight to drop a little more than I had liked. So I'm not going to use that as an excuse to eat some trash food or anything. I know that over the next few days I'm not going to be working out as hard or getting as much, intensity as I normally do. And so the food that I ate, for example, if I ate like I did today for the rest of the time, it should equal out. And I'm gonna drink a lot of water, so I'm not too worried about it. But I'm keeping an eye on it. My mood has been great. I'm doing that thing where I kind of, slow down and listen. I haven't been posting on social media. I've done some posts. I've made a few comments that were completely non-confrontational or argumentative, or like just anything exploring kind of a topic that is of contention. It's been medium difficulty. Like there's a few things where I'll pop, or even a news article. Like I'll see a news article and it'll make me want to dive into social media and look at the conversation unfolding and see if I can't like poke. But that's just not, that's like an instinct because it's been my ritual. But I'm fighting it, and I'm gonna win over that. And I'm gonna start building I'm gonna get like some labeled notes. I think like a note for each topic, and maybe just start writing long form style inside of different Word documents or something. But possibly something that I can just kind of use to vent, maybe write in like a different context, so I can still get my thoughts out, and so I have something to go back to and look at after the fact. It's really, really, really good for you always, to anybody, to express your thoughts in some sort of way that then you can go back later and check it out, because I think there's just a lot of personal growth to be had from that practice. If you keep it all in your head, then you're very likely going to think you're onto something when you might not be. I don't know. Anyway, I think that's pretty good for my check-in portion. As far as picking a topic to ramble on, I would say that one thing I haven't really spoken too clearly about during this process, but is related to addiction and sobriety and living one's best self and living an examined life and so on and so forth, is the whole PTSD thing, post traumatic stress disorder. Um, there's a bit of pseudoscience mumbo jumbo to it that I would like to kind of speak on first. They say, oh well, these traumatic events, they change the structure of your brain, or they change you like physiologically, or there's provable means to show, like, okay, well, let's get it scanned then. Like, they talk like that, but then they don't scan the people that have it. Like, it's a determined thing. Like, they just say, oh, what are the paperwork reads, list your two most stressful events that you had during your military service. Just write it down. And then literally just based on that, and then my own, or this, whoever the veteran's own, like, self diagnosed mood, or however you want to say it, like however you say you feel like you're dealing with stuff, they will give you a rating. And so if you're desperate, or if you feel like you have no other way to survive, or if you're greedy, or if you um, are using the system as just a means to get money, then all you have to do is say, oh, I'm so mad, I'm unemployable, I can't stand, da 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 da. And literally, it's something, oh man, not for everybody, but there is a sell your soul kind of chance there. Like, there, you literally are given the option to just, I mean, I'm not saying people are lying, I'm not trying to put that on anybody, but it makes it really, it makes it pretty obvious to me that some people would see that big dollar amount. I mean, it's thousands of dollars a month if you get 100% disability off of the veteran situation. So you could walk in there and just be like, I'm angry all the time, and I can't stand my life, and blah 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 blah, bullshit, blah. And if you just blow up a little bit like that, and then you've got two decent stress stories from your military service that you can prove happened, you're golden, and then you get what, $3,000 a month. But, like, what does that say about, like, if I say, for example, if I was to pull something like that, I wouldn't be able to live with myself. My character or whatever just would eat me away every single day. And so it brings me to this. The only reason I'm even going down that rabbit hole is because of this point. It brings me to ask myself, to really dive deep inside myself and think to myself, what is a baseline American male supposed to act like? Like, are we supposed to just be completely docile, non-reactive pudding pops? That's what I like to call somebody that's just soft as dough. I call them pudding pop. It's kind of like that teacup poodle thing I talked about last night. No, man, come on. An American male, like any male, like a human male, has the capacity to be assertive and to express dominance and to be masculine. So where is the mid range, and then how far do you have to get away from the mid range before you have some sort of temper problem? Like, is being willing to confront real issues in your life something that registers on a PTSD scale? Like, no, it shouldn't. I don't have anger issues. I don't have flashbacks. I don't trip out. I do have violent dreams and stuff. Like, I do have, dreams that just go completely sideways, but it doesn't bother me. Like, I revel in it. Like, I personally live in a universe where not everything is safe. Not everything is secure. Not everything is guaranteed. And is that is that all it takes to be in PTSD mode? Like, I'm dead serious. I already have the mechanism in place that I'm supposed to be getting a call at some point pretty soon, and they're gonna give me a time where I get to go down and sit in front of the big boy board in St. Louis. I asked for going to Washington D.C., but they sent me to St. I'm gonna go to St. Louis and sit in front of an actual panel of humans that are supposed to be experts or whatever, and I'm supposed to explain my situation, and I'm gonna tell them. I'm gonna say, look, y'all lost documentation. Y'all had, this doctor that decided that, oh, they lost paperwork, but it's my responsibility to find it, even though it was so easy to find. He could have made one phone call and figured it out himself. But his, $200 an hour professional, self couldn't make a phone call that then he put off on me, or I'm going to lose 20% of my service connection because they couldn't find the x-ray for my spinous stenosis in my back. Come on, people. This system's broken. If you civilians think you want this shit in your world, then... So anyway, oh man. I'm going to tell them, look, if you... Like, my PTSD rating is 30%, and that back diagnosis is only 20. So I mean, it would be taking money out of my own pocket, but I like truth. I care about truth more than money, and I care about my character more than anything else. And so I'm gonna say, look, if y'all motherfuckers think I really do have PTSD, then prove it to me. Like, I'm a perfect example. I've been through some of the very worst combat, some of the most intense, jarring combat that Iraq and Afghanistan's had to offer. You know what I mean? I've lost buddies. I saw the gore. I was right there. Been ambushed multiple times. Rocket strikes, small arms fire, IEDs going off on us as a job. People, I was doing route clearance. People say, "Oh, you were EOD?" No, 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 no. People think EOD is cool. We were finding the bombs and disarming the bombs, which turns an IED into a UXO, an unexploded ordnance, and then we give the unexploded ordnances to EOD, which stands for Explosive Ordnance Disposal. Okay, we collected them off the street and gave them to EOD. So the people's like, oh, EOD is so hardcore. Well, guess what? We were sappers, bro. We were one step ahead of those guys. They wouldn't even come out of the wire unless we called and told them, hey, we've got this secure situation. Come and pick up these bombs so you can do forensics on it. Like, take it and do the work for us so we can see where that shit came from in our next 24, 48, or 72 hour significant actions reports. I invaded Solder City. I was literally in the front truck of the leading assault convoy 2 blocks in front of those concrete barriers in Solder City in 2008, getting shot at by snipers and getting EFPs straight from Iran, straight from Muqtada al-Sadr's EFP factory, and he's now the president of Iraq. Don't give me this stuff. I mean, like, show me my brain scan. Send me to the place where you can show me the truth of it, because honestly speaking, I believe that you can rewire yourself. I believe if you really have the gumption, or whatever it is, if you honestly want to live a disciplined, examined life where you take full, like the straight up Jocko style extreme ownership of your life, and you're not pussyfooting around, you're being serious about it. You get in the meditation and the breathing exercises and the lucid dreaming practices, and you do whatever it takes. I mean, you literally just, no excuses. Cancel the excuses. Period. No matter what. Don't care. It might take a little while, because I'm not saying I was like this a while back. Like, I've had a lesser form, trust, but show me. I want to see it. I will lose 30% of my rating just to see my brain scan, to see exactly how, different mine is compared to some kind of average baseline. Like, very interested in it. So anyway, now that I'm just done with that part of the PTSD thing, I mean, what even is it? Like, there's PTSD from war, but then there's also PTSD from what? Car accidents, violence, um, family trauma, sexual misconduct situations, neglect. I mean, sure. I mean, honestly, like if you paint PTSD with a broad enough brush, then what percentage of the population doesn't have PTSD? Like, if all it is oh you're torn up over something from your past, or oh you have some trauma that still like bothers you from your past, or you could get I mean, somebody could literally like hear a firework go off and think it was a gunshot and be like, oh, in that one moment I realized that I could have died or whatever. And I mean, you could literally just anything. You got attacked by a dog, like the neighbor's dog attacked you and you got bit, and now you can't go outside. Boom, PTSD. Like, I'm almost wondering if it's not a trap. Like, if they're just not giving people the ability to victimize themselves, you know? And I'm not down with that. Like, I filled out the paperwork. Those two stories, I'll go into it a little bit there. The first, I did a story from my first tour and a story from my second tour. It was the ones where the closest person to me died, both times. And we were on mission the first tour. We were on mission on MSR Tampa going south. And we get a call over the radio. The second platoon, which is like many checkpoints down the road, has been ambushed and they've taken casualties and they're possibly still in harm's way or whatever. And we chit chat over the radio a little bit and we decide, hey, we're gonna fucking balls to the walls it down there. We were supposed to be clearing this road at 10 miles an hour looking for bombs, and they were likely there. Like, there was active enemies all around us. And instead of driving that 10 miles an hour with our lights on, heavy as hell, looking for these bombs, we shut the lights off a little bit and we kicked it up to about as fast as those vehicles would drive straight. I mean, as fast as I've ever driven in Iraq, period. And I was leading the way. There was no truck in front of me. If there was a pressure plate on the road, if there was an IED there to be triggered by a vehicle driving by or driving over it, it was me. It was gonna be me and my boys that were gonna take that shot. And I was scared. I'm not joking. Like, there's nothing wrong with being scared. Fear is a natural part of it. Gets that adrenaline flowing. You know what I mean? You need a little bit of fear. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But you know what? I pushed that pedal down, and we made it to those guys. And the fight was over. I can't tell some courage, some save the day story, but maybe they saw us coming, and that's why they didn't continue the fight. Who knows? I mean, who knows? There's no way to know, but I was sure that I was getting ready to get blasted and rolled. You know what I mean? I was just, and in that moment I was like, this is it. This is the story they're going to tell in my funeral, and we made it and it was fine, and we saw some aftermath, yucky, whatever, nothing too bad, and that's it, but that was stressful as fuck, and there's 10 other stories from that tour that were probably maybe even a little more stressful in the moment, but it didn't result in the same, like, there wasn't an actual death. We had guys get Purple Hearts and so on and so forth, but that just seemed like the best one to write down for that particular tour. And then my second tour, we were south of Solder City, driving right east to west across this one straight road right before you get into the grid of what is Solder City. And there was this one building that we used to always take fire from, and there's like these overpasses that you drive underneath, just like an American highway. It was a two lane highway with overpasses every whatever, couple hundred yards or whatever. They had these overpasses, and civilians would walk across them, but there was also vehicles going back and forth across them. And we didn't have anybody in our lane because we don't let people pass us over there. We just had everybody about 100 meters back, and they had a set up, man. They had a set up. They had two camera angles. They had a camera guy on top of one of these overpasses, and they had a camera guy that was in a vehicle right back at our very farthest cordon, following our convoy. There used to be Iraqis that would always, or vehicles that would always follow behind route clearance to get somewhere. And sure, it's slow, but guess what? You definitely ain't gonna get hit by bombs. So it's kind of a give take. And they were watching us. We didn't realize it at the time, and we passed underneath that overpass. I was the gunner in the first truck, so my field of vision is, this basically big piece of pie right in front of me. I got from basically like, 8:30, 9 o'clock to 2:30, 3 o'clock, basically just, you know, the whole front piece. I'm not supposed to be cranking my turret side to side too much. I'm just looking, and we drive under the overpass. Second vehicle, third vehicle, fourth vehicle drives under the overpass. No problem. It's a little quiet, but it's always eerie and weird in that area. And I remember very specifically there was this truck, this big like dump truck thing that was parked backed into this like little fenced in area, and it had kids in the watching. There was like at least 3 kids sitting there watching us pass, and I was like, there's just 3 kids in this dump truck, like just sitting here. There was Iraqi police officers on both corners of the overpass, and then all of a sudden there's just like this small, it sounded small because I'm used to these huge bombs, and so it was like a small explosion, and then just like some like or whatever sound after the fact, and I was like, what the fuck? And we had gun trucks that actually had Humvee up armored thick, super thick glass built into them, so I could actually turn around and see through my gun turret in a few spots. So I turned around and looked, and the rear truck, all I remember is this what I know now is like the rocket part of the RPG that was still like expending its fuel, and it was just kind of shooting sparks across the top of the vehicle, and the gun turret was all fucked up, and the vehicle was like smoking and stuff, and I was like, damn, that we got hit by an IED. But then I was like, wait a second, that ain't no fucking IED. What the hell is that? And I had to get back in my lane. Like, I'm not sitting there staring. I looked, and then I looked back, and I'm like, okay, we're fucking getting ambushed or something, like I was ready, but I got to stay in my lane. And we're talking internally and everything, and it comes across the radio that some of the guys in the vehicle were making noise, but there was obviously some issues. And we went forward a little more, and fast forward, and they even released, it was like a Syrian Al Qaeda freaking like hit squad or whatever that literally makes highlight reels and puts them on liveleak.com. And we literally ended up being shown this video at some point that had like the rocket strike in it, from 2 different angles. There was a guy in like this taxi or whatever, this guy just in the back of the taxi with a rocket. He jumps out right on the overpass and just boom, blows over. Of course the gunner died, and the guys inside were burned real bad, and even though they were like burned real bad and the driver had like shrapnel all up in him and stuff, it was in an area where you can't just like start lighting everybody up. Our rules of engagement, we got our hands out behind our back, and I was just like kind of in shock in the moment. Like, I wasn't thinking all the like some of the stuff I'm fixing to say. It wasn't exactly what was on my mind then, but it was like, it was kind of there, but it was in a really fuzzy, like non-articulate. You ever notice how like you have thoughts and you can't really articulate them sometimes, but then later after you process it, you can articulate it? But like, I keep going back to those kids because that was a training session for those kids. They saw like, okay, this is how you attack the enemy. You know what I mean? Like, they were sitting there just face forward. Like, I was looking right at them, and I was like, it's your future fighters. You know what I mean? But what are you gonna do? Like, they're not combatants right now. You know, there's nothing I can do about that. And I can't shoot the Iraqi police officers up on the corners blocking traffic up there because, number one, I can't prove that they were in on it. But number two, they're wearing a uniform of something that I'm not allowed to shoot at unless they're, even if they point a gun at me in that particular zone where we were that day, those Iraqi police officers could literally point their gun right at one of us or one of our vehicles or whatever. And if they don't pull that trigger and that gun does not fire, we cannot do anything about it. They have to actually be actively engaging us. And so we really just we weren't being further engaged. There was no IEDs on the ground. There was no secondaries or nothing like that. So um, we really only had one option, and that was just to basically continue mission. But since we had non-operative gun turret on the rear vehicle, we moved the rear vehicle into the middle of the convoy, and our second gun truck took the rear. And since, of course, we had casualties and people like with shrapnel and stuff up in them, we had to um, halt the mission and go to a combat outpost and resupply, get another vehicle brought to us, and then we took all of our guys. We left the destroyed vehicle there. I mean, it wasn't destroyed, but we gutted it, and you know the turret was gone, so it's not functional. We got another vehicle brought to us. We waited there for however many couple hours, and went to the green zone to drop off our deceased brother and to see about these guys getting checked out that had shrapnel and stuff in them, and they got worked on a little bit. And then guess what? We were right back out to mission. We literally went back out and finished our route and went home and kept work. I mean, just the next day was mission. There was no difference whatsoever. We just kept rolling. And that probably wasn't even the most stressful event. There's some fights on grizzlies where we were really pinned into an intersection, and they were shooting at us from a mosque one time, for example. Can't shoot back. They're in a mosque. Like, we couldn't get clearance to shoot it. We literally asked for clearance to light that fucking building up. We had air support that night and everything, and they were seeing the people moving around. They even shot a rock. Okay, I'm not bullshitting. They shot a rocket at us that night, and it stuck in one of the tires. But the damn insurgent that shot the rocket hadn't pulled the safety pin. There's like 3 pins you have to pull on an RPG-7. There's the pin that's on the warhead. There's the pin that's on the trigger, and then there's the pin that's on like the accelerant or whatever that actually tells the rocket to go off. So you have to have all 3 of them. Well, they had 2 out of 3, so it hit the vehicle, stuck in the tire, but the warhead didn't go off. It just stuck in there, so we had to extract that later on. But anyway, that, but as far as the story that I told in that PTSD letter, I told that story because it was, the guy that I had just been playing Xbox with. I literally still, to this day, have that Xbox hard drive with his profile on it. So, that's stressful, right? But the thing is I can talk about it. I own it. This is part of my war experience. It makes me, it gives me that perspective. And those weren't even like the most hardcore stuff I did or the things that maybe made me the soldier that I am today, but those were just, they checked the most boxes, basically. There's death, there's combat, there's being engaged by the enemy, and so those are the ones I wrote down. And I made sure to write in there too, like, okay, look, these 2 events are just basically the ones that check the most boxes, but we're talking about an active role in combat on a very regular basis across 2 years worth of service, 2005 and 6, and then again in 2007 and 8, both times right inside Baghdad or right around Baghdad. And so there's the stories. I mean, that's what I wrote down, but they haven't skinned my brain. They haven't really dove deep into asking me any relevant questions, and so really what I'm left with is just this ponderance of like, what does it, what does it even look like? Like, I've been honest. I've been so honest. Like, there's no way that I can try to act like that I'm getting over on anybody. I mean, realistically speaking, everybody's told me, like, I qualify and it's totally fine, but I've got survivor's guilt. Like, I've got thriver's guilt. Part of me is like, well, I shouldn't be, like, even the idea of being disabled. Like, yeah, okay, so what? So I've got some spinal stenosis, some thinning and deterioration in my back. I have worked trying to get my deadlift up. Like, I'll never deadlift 500 pounds. I don't have that in me. You know what I mean? But doesn't mean I'm disabled. Like, I can run, I can jump, I do jujitsu, like, I can do all this stuff. So it's like weird. And I just want to be honest. I want the record to show the truth, and I want to give back, and I want to be around people that have actual, legitimate, like, what I consider real PTSD. And part of me is like, well, maybe I'm just making excuses. Maybe I've got PTSD and I just don't want to admit it. Or maybe, like, I'm just trying to not, maybe I'm just trying to, like, argue against the idea that I have PTSD or something like that just because I feel like it's a weakness. I mean, I'm just throwing that out there. I don't know. But if there's really a way to prove it objectively by scanning my brain, then by God, let's do it. Let me see it. I want to see it. I want to see the difference. I've got I told you about my eye slump thing. Uh, that doesn't even have to be PTSD. That's more of like a TBI thing, right? Or MTBI, mild traumatic brain injury. Um, I definitely got rocked by some of those bombs that went off, man. The vehicles will protect you from the shrapnel, but they do not protect you from that shockwave. That shockwave is a real deal. Um, so, I don't know. I mean, I've never been offered the really high tech scans, and hopefully this trip to St. Louis will um, possibly get me that. Or maybe I just have to live wondering. I don't know, but between the back diagnoses, the spinous or the tinnitus, I got some ringing and a little bit of hearing loss, but it's not that bad. I can actually hear really good. It seems like I can hear just as good or better than most civilians anyway. But I can tell you what, that's actually another good thing to put in this video. Do you compare when you're comparing for a VA compensation? Should I personally be compared to the average citizen, or should I be compared to where I would be otherwise? Because I came out with exceptional senses. My sight, my hearing, my physicality, whatever on baseline is, I mean, I hate to, say anything that's arrogant or whatever, but it's way above average. Way above average. I'm thankful, very thankful for that. That's great. I appreciate the body I was born into, but if it's that I should compare myself to the quite obvious effects that my military service had on my structure and the timeline of my life, the time it took me to reassimilate and to kind of process all my stuff and to get back to my best self, which is, I'm my best self right now for sure. I'm my best self right now. My best self is in the future still. Like, I'm going to be more fit, more strong, more intelligent. All my abilities are increasing. I don't have anything staying still or going backwards right now. So, maybe maybe the money's for the time lost or for just the person that they've crafted me into. I mean, I am a patriotic person. If shit really hits the fan ever, I mean, call on your boy. I'm gonna keep America alive. I'm gonna be here and be ready to defend the rights of the citizens. I'm not a threat. I'm not a threat to anybody unless they're evil. Okay? Like, I'm not. If you're a good person, then I am your man. I'll help and be a synergistic relationship to anybody I come across, unless you are a problem. Like, you know, it has to be them. I swear, I've got a support system that lets me know. I don't make these decisions of myself. I wait. I've got patience. Um, and I don't know. It's just, this is all just a really interesting thought process to me. So I guess this was probably a pretty good check-in. I guess I'll rewatch it and hopefully get something out of it. Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm comfortable being diagnosed with PTSD. Like, it doesn't necessarily bother me, but it would be really frustrating if later on I get into some kind of thing, like politically or like some sort of non-for-profit lobbying thing or some kind of like private investigation training thing or some kind of whatever it is. If I'm trying to do some kind of entrepreneurial thing, or if I go after some kind of job, or you know, what if I end up trying to work back for the government, doing some kind of NSA or CIA thing or whatever? What if they try to say, well, oh, what about, you know, your PTSD diagnosis? Like, you know, I feel like that I could definitely break through that barrier if they just give me the opportunity to just talk it out, you know. But I've heard of people getting turned down for things or being paranoid about not being able to have whatever gun rights or this or that or the other because of diagnoses like that. So it's just it's a weird situation. It's like, I want to be honest. I'm comfortable being vulnerable. I'm comfortable just having the truth out there, and I do not want to live that Instagram life. Like, I do not want to even try to put off the image of being perfect. You know, it's our failings and the worst parts of our life that actually are the most transformative. So to me, when I see somebody out there, you know, with this whole like perfect image or whatever, all I see is weakness and shallow behavior. That's all I see. I just see nobody that's a leader, you know. So it's interesting. I guess this will be enough. When I started this video project, I had trouble rambling for 10 minutes. I had trouble just staying on target, and now already, like, I can just flow right through all these thoughts pretty well. So I guess that means it's working. These are still like really low quality, really like low tech, really non thought out. Like, this is all just off the cuff. It's just extemporaneous. But the next step after this project's over will be refining, scripting, kind of doing some kind of next level stuff, incorporating more people. I only ended up doing one interview. I've had a couple other people that were interested, but the conversation was always going to end up going in some direction that wasn't like Sober October based. And also with the timing after my son's been born recently, and my wife's back to work now and stuff, it's been really difficult to find like good time. You know, even just getting these in has been difficult several nights. So either way, this is a fine rep, and it's a fine stepping stone to the future. So, alright, I hope you are having a fantastic day, and I'm signing out until tomorrow.